A groan went up at this, but the man with the bearskin coat approved. 24 of the frozen eggs went rattling in his capacious pockets, and he didn't care whether the rest of the town ate or not. Besides, he could see Rasmunsen was on his last legs. "There's a cabin right around the second corner from the Monte Carlo," he told him. "The one with the sody bottle window. It ain't mine, but I've got charge of it. Rent's for 10 a day, and cheap for the money. You move right in, and I'll see you later. Don't forget the sody bottle window." "Tra la loo!" he called back a moment later. "I'm goin' up the hill to eat eggs and dream of home." On his way to the cabin, Rasmunsen recollected he was hungry, and bought a small supply of provisions at the NAT&T store, also a beefsteak at the butcher shop, and dried salmon for the dogs. He found the cabin without difficulty, and left the dogs in the harness while he started the fire and got the coffee under way. $1.50 apiece! 1,000 dozen! $18,000! He kept muttering it to himself, over and over as he went about his work. As he flopped the steak into the frying pan, the door opened. He turned. It was the man with the bearskin coat. He seemed to come in with determination, as though bound on some explicit errand. But as he looked at Rasmunsen, an expression of perplexity came into his face. "I say he began, then halted. Rasmunsen wondered if he wanted the rent. "I say, damn it, you know them eggs is bad." Rasmunsen staggered. He felt as though some one had struck him an astounding blow between the eyes. The walls of the cabin reeled and tilted up. He put his hand to steady himself and rested it on the stove. The sharp pain and the smell of the burning flesh brought him back to himself. I see," he said slowly, fumbling in his pocket for the sack. "You want your money back?" "It ain't the money," the man said. "But hain't you got any eggs good?" Rasmunsen shook his head. "You'd better take the money." But the man refused and backed away. "I'll come back," he said, "when you've taken stock, and get what's comin'." Rasmunsen rolled the chopping block into the cabin and carried in the eggs. He went about it quite calmly. He took up the hand axe, and one by one chopped the eggs in half. These halves he examined carefully and let fall to the floor. At first he sampled from the different cases, then deliberately emptied one case at a time. The heap on the floor grew larger. The coffee boiled over, and the smoke of the burning beefsteak filled the cabin. He chopped steadfastly and monotonously till the last case was finished. Somebody knocked at the door, knocked again, and let himself in. "What a mess!" he remarked, as he paused and surveyed the scene. The severed eggs were beginning to thaw in the heat of the stove, and a miserable odor was growing stronger. "Must 'a' happened on the steamer," he suggested. Rasmunsen looked at him long and blankly. "I'm Murray, Big Jim Murray. Everybody knows me," the man volunteered. "I'm just hearin' your eggs is rotten, and I'm offerin' you $200 for the batch. They ain't good as salmon, but still they're fair scoffin's for dogs." Rasmunsen seemed turned to stone. He did not move. "You go to hell," he said passionlessly. "Now just consider. I pride myself it's a decent price for a mess like that, and it's better'n nothin'. 200. What do you say?" "You go to hell," Rasmunsen repeated softly, "and get out of here." Murray gaped with a great awe, then went out carefully backward with his eyes fixed on the other's face. Rasmunsen followed him out and turned the dogs loose. He threw them all the salmon he had bought, and coiled a sled lashing up in his hand. Then he re entered the cabin and drew the latch in after him. The smoke from the cindered steak made his eyes smart. He stood on the bunk, passed the lashing over the ridge pole, and measured the swing off with his eye. It did not seem to satisfy, for he put the stool on the bunk and climbed upon the stool. He drove a noose in the end of the lashing and slipped his head through. The other end he made fast. Then he kicked the stool out from under. End of the 1000 Dozen.